You know what I've really learned from you over this last year?
Please.
Is that it's okay to moan and groan out loud in public. And all the time. And I will literally just be somewhere and I'm like, ah! And I get some looks, especially at the bakery. I will literally just and my coworkers will look at me and they're like, you good?
Yeah, better out than in. I know it's my sacral. Like, I'm very aware that that's what makes noises. I've always done it, though. People used to make fun of me way back when because I would eat and I'd be like, I would have something yummy and they'd be like, oh, say more. It was so funny because I've always been such a sensual, sexual person. And even in my very virginal days, I was still so sensual. And now I know it's very much my sacral, and I lead through my sacral. That's my authority in my body. But I think I probably give yours permission to do the same, and I'm very happy with that. Yeah, yesterday I was having a massage, and the only reason I was even thinking about how vocal I am is I could hear the guy in the office next door on a work call.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he was just talking in a normal volume. But I was like, oh, he's probably hearing all my moans, wondering what is happening in there.
Lots
of things. And now, about to finish up this embodied intimacy and relationship coaching certificate, we're working with a lot of somatic principles, and there is so much truth to feeling that reverberation.
It's relieving. It literally feels like release.
Yeah, let's do it together before we start.
Let's do it.
Let's exhale a little, and then we'll inhale, and then we'll let out a together.
Okay.
Inhale. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Sex Ed for You podcast, where research meets reality.
This is the podcast for people who want to date and have great sex that is safe, fun, and enjoyable.
We desire to empower you, our listeners, to make informed decisions that lead to values-based living. I am Lauren. I am a certified holistic sexuality educator and almost a certified embodied intimacy and relationship coach.
Snazzy as hell.
Snazzy. Oh, and I'm certified in a pro the wheel of consent. I don't know what I can say there. They were like, there's no certification, but
Can I make an acronym for it and then call it official? Great. I'll get to work on that.
LAP, like a pro.
Yeah. I'm LAP certified.
I'm a LAP with the wheel of consent.
Good Lord. I'm Holland. I also work here. I'm nothing certified except I have a degree in public health. And
it's a big deal.
I work here. I'm chief culture of content and chief coordinator of culture and content.
Chief culture and content coordinator.
Chief culture and content. Yep.
Right?
That's me.
The CC and CC.
Yep. Wow.
So many things. She drives our content and the culture of this business, which is really important. Really important. Shout out to your most recent article, which was beautiful.
Oh, thanks.
And the people are loving it. Y'all, if you're not subscribed to our email list or reading Holland's blogs, you don't have to subscribe to the email list. I recommend that you do so. It's really neat to intake in a different modality. Written expression is so different than this type. Holland's a really good writer. Our clients are all like, I feel like I know Holland. I feel like we're friends. It is from her perspective, filled with her opinions, filled with her research, and it's just interesting. And I think you would benefit. And the most recent one was on body count.
Body.
Such a silly idea, but it's been neat to see different people's reaction to it. And I encourage everyone to go read it because Holland does a great job at clickbait titles because it's never kind of what you think it's going to be. And the people who have felt most encouraged for it are my clients who are preparing for first intercourse, my clients who are working through something like dyspareunia or vaginismus, my clients who, feel like they don't measure up to the world standard of this body count thing, that they are behind. So if you're like, oh, that's not what I thought it was, then you should go read it because it's good.
Thanks.
What do you want to talk about?
Okay.
Now that we've moaned and groaned
I've
together.
moaned and groaned. I think it's necessary for this story. So,
Gentle audience.
oh, that's how we started the episode that I got caught for.
Really?
Yeah, literally. Okay, so I knowingly put a lot of my life on this podcast, on the internet. And I am known to forget that it exists because that's how I kind of not cope with it, because like it's not a bad thing. And I'm not like, I do this intentionally. I edit it and I publish it. I do this intentionally.
No, we're very honest and real on here. Mm-hmm.
But I think I try to forget that people that I know can listen to it. And yeah. And not only that, friends of people that I know. And that's where I got in trouble. Not in trouble, but okay. So friends, remember how I was supposed to go to DC and I didn't go to DC. And then we didn't talk about it because I specifically told Lauren, I can't talk about this on the podcast. I just don't want it to go out. And then a few weeks went by and Lauren was like, we want to talk about this on the podcast. And I was like, fine. And we did. Well, this weekend, I got a text from the man that I was supposed to meet in DC. And he was like, hey, some of my friends showed me your podcast. And he was so kind. He was like, I don't hate you. Would love to catch up. And if you're ever in New York, like hit me up and we'll get coffee. And I was like, you, I think might be the nicest, kindest, most understanding and graceful human in this world, because not only did I lie to you, you caught me in my lie in a podcast that I put on the internet, but his friends showed it to him. And I can't imagine how that felt. And I have been wrestling for the past like day or two of like, God, that was really shitty, Holland. That was really shitty of you. And simultaneously realizing that it's not about me. It was really shitty of me, but I am not in the place to feel bad for myself about that. Like, I can't make this about me.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of trying to figure out how to navigate this. I responded to him. I apologized. I was very much myself and said, I would like to crawl into a hole and never come out. I'm so sorry. Like, I don't know what to say. I said, if you would like to hear the long story that didn't go on the podcast, I would be more than willing to tell you. But if you don't want to hear my excuses, then you do not have to. And again, he responded in tenfold with kindness. And that's where we're at.
Proud of you. The tagline of this here podcast is where research meets reality. And one of the things that I am committed to is not leading our audience to believe that we are any types of gurus or priests or priestesses or people who at all times have it together, because that is not true. We are human. We are fallible humans. We are going to fuck up. We are going to make mistakes. And we are going to make accidents. And I am proud of you. I mean, we've talked about some of mine on here in real time. And you know, I think we've talked about it, but that guy I dated for 6 weeks and led him to believe I deeply loved him. Only to drop him and run screaming, crying back into Trey's arms. That was not a fine moment in my life, and yet it was one of the biggest teaching moments ever in my life. And I think that we can learn and then we can experience. And both teach us something. What in this raw time are you learning? Like, what are you learning about yourself in real time, and I don't think you need to have grasped the whole lesson, right? But like,
Right.
what are you feeling into?
I think the number one thing I'm kind of stuck on is, y'all have heard me preach about how much I lean on authenticity, and I'm really disappointed in myself for not only lying, just in the case that lying is not great, but going against my own values and seeing how that hurt people, like people that I care about, a person that I truly care about, and how icky I feel when I don't align myself with my values. There's probably a lot more, but that's what keeps sticking out to me is like, Holland, like it feels very hypocritical. Like how you're in this realm and you're writing and you're talking on a podcast as if you know any better, and you're fucking up, Holland. Like you're fucking up big time. And it's humbling and painful.
So many things going through my mind. One, I do not want this to sound like I am excusing Holland's behavior, but I want to bring up something that we talked about at Wheel of Consent training that I think we talked about a little bit last time, which was those 3 ways of saying no. And that sometimes we can say no. Or, thank you so much for the invite. I had wanted to come. My body is saying no now. Sometimes we slink away because we can't find the words. And then sometimes we can kind of just remove. We can close a door verbally or through some type of thing. They did a really good job at assuring us that we all have lived experiences and traumas in our bodies and feelings that come with old narratives that sometimes feel like we get put in a no choice category. I find with clients of ours that the more religious we grew up, the more like mom and dad say, more patriarchal household type of thing, more there's a right and there's a wrong, that sometimes I see, me included, like, well, I can't possibly say these things. And then so there tends to be a slinking away. And I want all of us to do exactly what you're doing, which is inspecting our behavior and going, wow, like not being able to state my truth didn't give this other opportunity. It robbed somebody of agency. He's only showing himself to be this phenomenal human, which you always have known him to be, right? And Dr. Betty Martin would say, right, we robbed of agency because we didn't communicate the thing. But trauma-informed care would say, and was, that what Holland's body was capable of doing in the moment. Not an excuse, but a reason, perhaps. And I want our listeners to hear us say that sometimes the learning takes a while to integrate into the body. And I think that's why this podcast is so damn important, because you could learn something, you could know the better thing to do, but to just expect the body to go from that to this, no, grace, compassion, and we're gonna fuck up as we go. We just are. Freud had this term, which we roll our eyes, reaction formation, that when sex and sexuality, relationships, the beginning, the ending of them, were not a part of the growing up process in a house. What we did is we formed our understanding of romance, relationship, sexuality over here, apart from ourselves. That we became these good little humans, these good little children, these good little adults. But that part of us, it was reaction formation. It was forming out of reaction to what was the good. We don't like Freud a lot anymore, but I still think this theory holds, and it's called like psychological splitting, right? This idea that our sexuality and our relationship and romance is split from us. I think that process of reintegrating those pieces into our humanity is freaking hard. And it's just hard. when it wasn't like a tool developed, right? We look at my kid now and we're just amazed by how she navigates beginnings, continuations, and endings of relationship, how verbal she is with it, how it is just a part of, and you and I just sit there and marvel like, oh, this is just normal. She has never known another thing.
Yeah.
Right? And she has never known that it's not okay to advocate if she changes her mind. I wasn't allowed to do things like that. Again, I don't want the audience to hear this as an excuse, because we hold each other to a lot here and we push into those things. I want them though, to, if they have experiences like yours, because I'm sure they do, because we all do, that they can go, oh, okay. Maybe this comes from this, my fear of it. Or some time where somebody did say something and someone reacted negatively to the rejection, blew up in their face. The body keeps that memory. And I think we all just need to admit that learning new skills is hard. Yeah. What do you think of all of this pandering? Is that the right word when someone just talks?
No, I don't know. Is it I think it is No, pandering is like, it doesn't matter.
Okay,
I don't know.
Anyway.
I think it is. I kind of have the words of my childhood ringing around in my head, where it's like, I don't want to hear your excuses. And like, you did the thing, don't give me your reasons, don't give me your excuses, because I always found I was giving reasons and they were being categorized as excuses. So it's hard for me to kind of separate the two and delineate what's what, which is why I told him, like, if you don't want to hear them, that's fine. But it's hard for me to not give them. Like, it hurts my soul to not give explanation. So I hear all of the things that you're saying and I like wholeheartedly agree. And I'm like, yeah. And then I try to apply it to me and I'm like, yeah, but that's just excuses.
Okay. Well, I want you to hear this and the audience to hear this and gentle human to hear this. If you're listening to this podcast, intention does not negate impact. Okay. I don't think it was your intent to harm this incredible human. And it impacted him. Mm-hmm. And that's also hard to swallow. Because we hurt people sometimes. We do. Mm-hmm. And being the villain in somebody else's story sucks. Mm-hmm. Really sucks. We're having a conversation with some friends tonight that there was a lot of unintentional impact. I think probably from both sides. There's a miscommunication. There was, I don't even know. All I know is my side. And it freaking sucks. And all I know in my soul, like in my sacral, is that we could choose to ignore the fact that sometimes we impact others. Or we could choose to turn towards it with curiosity and compassion and say, what am I learning from this? How do I want to do this differently in the future? How do I desire to repair? And do they have an interest in repairing? Because that could heal the world. But this labeling of people as bad instead of actions as bad is harmful. Mm-hmm. Because labeling an action as bad gives us the opportunity to take accountability. And that's what I wanted to talk through is a worksheet that we have. Because you are an incredible human who is able to repair if given the opportunity. And I know that from work experience, right? And the other human doesn't have to. He does not have to. No one has to. The pain could be too great for them. And the safest thing for anybody that we have hurt could be, need to distance you. Great. But the tendency, guys, the Presbyterian Church had had this lovely piece that we would say all the time. I am a sinner in the sight of God, justly deserving of his displeasure. That total depravity idea, which is what I was raised with, actually leads to a lack of accountability, leads to I'll never achieve perfection. I'll never be God. So I might as well not take ownership and accountability for my actions. And repair is beautiful. I mean, psychologists have been talking about it forever, that a relationship that has been strained or fractured and repaired is actually stronger than the one before. And I think that's because a little bit of the projection has now shattered. And you and I have been talking a lot about projections. Yeah. Do you want to try to explain to the audience what projections are from your point of view?
In this specific context, projection within romantic relationship would be, this is what I want. So I don't even know how to characterize it because I don't think it's conscious. I think it's a subconscious act entirely. But projecting our desires in a relationship on the person we are dating, and kind of smushing them into the box that we've already created for ourselves, subconsciously, and just kind of seeing what you want to see and not seeing what you don't want to see. And that can kind of lead you into dating the idea of someone rather than the someone that you're dating. I think we all do it.
I know we all do it. There's research. Mm-hmm.
It can be detrimental. I mean, so detrimental to both parties, because I mean, I guess both people are constantly doing it to each other if it's two people within a partnership. And eventually that projection is going to crash. And I think that's when things can go to shit.
Yep.
Sometimes it's slowly. Sometimes it's something happens and you're like, oh God, I was wrong.
Do not be disheartened, everyone. We all do it. In school we had a whole module on the fact that I've called it limerence. We've talked about that on here before. This 1.5 to 2 years period of time is us falling in love with our projection of someone else. And that scares shit. That's really scary. The cool thing that this psychologist was giving us was this idea, though, that during that time, we can and have usually built different attachment patterns that can extend after our projections start to fade away. But if we find ourselves saying things in a longer term partnership, I wish we could just go back to the way things were in the beginning. Mm-hmm. That's physically impossible because the projection has faded. We are no longer in limerence. The hormones have calmed down. We are now actually looking at the other person, the real version of them, and getting to know the real version of them. But sometimes we put little practices, little routines and rituals into place that begin to be the negotiation of the third domain, that space between us. And those feel good and we love those. And we're both equally committed to that. And so we've made a really cool relationship. And so many of us have been, in a friendship or a situationship or a dating relationship, and all of a sudden somebody does something and we are shocked to our core. And then in the discussions with them afterwards, they tell us but no, I do that. That's me. And we're so confused. And all of a sudden we realize that's because we were in a relationship with our projection of them. And again, it's just wild. It's just wild. There's no one needs to be discouraged because we all do it.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say / ask, what is a practical way to kind of, if we're all projecting, what is a practical way of navigating your own projection when dating?
Probably fun, the question game. I don't know if we've ever done it on the podcast. We could do it. The Who Are You game. For listeners who don't know, here we can play it really fast. We'll do a couple rounds. I will say, Holland, who are you? And Holland will say, I am fill in the blank. Then she will say, Lauren, who are you? and I will fill in the blank. We'll go for a little bit. This can be very unnerving. It can also be very fun. I won't say the other part that I sometimes say.
Okay.
We'll just see what happens.
Okay.
Holland, who are you?
I am a woman. Lauren, who are you?
I am a dreamer. Holland, who are you?
I am... See, it gets hard really fast. I am a writer. Lauren, who are you?
I'm a builder. Holland, who are you?
I am a partner. Lauren, who are you?
I am a lover. Holland, who are you?
I am a questioner. Lauren, who are you?
I am probably a better word for it, but a problem solver. Holland, who are you?
I am a talker. Lauren, who are you?
I am a spiritual witchy hermit.
Yeah.
Holland, who are you?
I am a learner. Lauren, who are you?
I am a leader. Final round. Holland, who are you?
This is very hard for me right now with all of the stuff going on. I am a wanter, a desirer. Lauren, who are you?
I am a fallible human. And scene. In your mind, what does that exercise do?
I think it makes you consider your projection of yourself and how you feel the world sees you, and then how you feel you see yourself. It also made me realize it's different every time we play it. I mean, I don't even know what I've said in past times, but it really makes you consider what, or at least makes me consider what I want to be and what I actually am. Because I think there's at different times in my life, there's different levels of like, I would say like how close I am to the person I want to be, the person I strive to be. And I think at certain times, especially with like what we've spoken about today being so like obviously top of my mind because it's been the past 30 minutes, I don't feel like I am the person that I want to be. And so it's hard for me to describe myself in a lofty way. And it makes you, really consider, I think, the decisions that you've made recently, the things that you've done and how they align with who you are and who you want to be. And it's interesting to learn the words that people would use to describe themselves. Like I always love listening to the words that you use. They're not typically words I would draw upon. And it's intriguing to see kind of like, oh, okay, I can connect that to this that I know of Lauren. I can connect that to, these different instances. Or I'm like, oh, I should look for that more in her.
I think it's fascinating. It made me think of when we played, I think somewhere, We Are Not Really Strangers card games, you and Trey and I. And one of the questions we drew was, what do you think the hardest part of my job is? And you and Trey both had your ideas about what the hardest part of my job was, which was funny that it was you two. And it was not, it's not what I called the hardest part of my job. And obviously, you two know more about the work I do than anyone else. So that was wild. So again, gentle audience, take comfort. You and I should take comfort that I would say you and Trey and I know each other pretty well. And still, it is good to get clarification. What I didn't say at the beginning was, and Talent knows this because I've said this before, is that people in female bodies raised female, gendered female, have a tendency in this game, in the Who Are You game, to go to roles they play for someone else. And tend to say things like, I am a mother, I am a partner, I am a daughter, I am a friend, I am all of these things. And if you've played this, since you just heard us talking, maybe you paused the podcast. Yeah, reflect on that. If you play with friends, maybe don't tell them, just like I didn't say it here, and you model what it is like to be a climber, an adventurer, a discoverer. See if you can model things that are not relationship focused. As much as that is beautiful, it is not who we are. And as we step into our individuation inside of relationships, it becomes richer and richer, because then someone knows how they want to partner, whether, again, in friendship, situationship, platonic, sexual, whatever. It is hard. It is hard to know who we are separate from other. And God, what a journey. One of the things you and I had talked about that we could bring up on this podcast is tools that I have learned from others in our field on resolving a consent-based accident or violation. Mm-hmm. This comes from our history of beautiful, beautiful colleagues inside of BDSM and kink spaces. And when I took an incredible class by Mix Sizzle, we will put their Instagram below, at a conference a year or so ago, they were teaching about, this kind of conflict resolution. And I have adapted and tweaked and worked on kind of a stepwise process for resolving accidents, because I thought that their questions were phenomenal for use in kinky spaces, because sometimes we make accidents. Sometimes we did not intend to harm another, or we were looking for our own well-being, putting ourselves first, which is not always bad, and it harmed another. Now, what becomes more harmful is if we don't take accountability for the action. What can actually repair and lead to more beauty is these kind of step-by-step things. Again, accidents are different than violations. Let me do a really quick thing. Violation is going into something attempting to harm someone, wanting to take joy and gratification from their pain that is not previously consented, that it wasn't some type of S&M scene. So that's a whole different thing, guys, and that can be fun if somebody is consenting and that's desirous. But if you are coming in to violate, to manipulate, to control, to get pleasure out of someone's pain, you are a violator and you are an unsafe person. Unsafe. That's not okay. An accident is human and comes about from all different kinds of reasons. Sometimes it is because that is the way to stay most safe. And again, in Wheel of Consent training, we did a whole lot on this, that we need to be really careful judging ourselves or others too hard if that's what they needed to do to stay safe. So, step-by-step process. Number one, if somebody tells us that they have been hurt by our actions, our first step is to say, thank you for telling me. Next step. I'm sorry that and you can fill in the blank, but mostly take accountability. I had no intention of hurting you. I see that I did that. I'm sorry. These are the juicy ones. What could I have done differently? This is what I'll do to keep fill in the blank from happening again. These are my favorites. Do you need anything from me? Does this give you what you need? Either to move forward in relationship or to go on in life without us. Because sometimes we just not good for the other person. And it's okay. Sometimes that serves a role. And boy, is it not the fun way. I wish we could all just be hunky-dory, but it's not sometimes the solution. How do those sound in your body to like ask someone?
Uncomfortable.
Why? I mean, it's so helpful to hear.
Can you read me the two questions again?
Like, what could I have done differently? Or you could just say, this is what I could do differently. I think you already could literally paint that all out. Or, I feel like I could have done this differently.
Right.
Do you have any ideas?
Well, I think asking the question is important, though. Because, yes, intellectually, I do know what I could have done differently. But I think giving the person you've harmed the power to say that is more important than my saying, look how good I am at knowing that I hurt you and I should have done this differently, because that feels very like I'm taking from you again. So I think asking the question is important because it gives them the opportunity to explain their hurt, because I think that's the hardest part of probably this as a general experience, not only mine, but of like repairing harm. The person who has done harm has to sit there and hear, you did this wrong. You hurt me. And that's not easy to sit through. And it's not easy to not only reconcile that I've done something wrong, but then hear them in detail say, this is what you should have done. Instead of taking that power upon yourself and saying like, oh, I should have done this differently. I should have done this differently. Da, 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 da. Like, let them explain to you kind of what you fucked up. And it sounds horrible. Like literally right now I'm like, oh, I don't want to, I don't think that sounds fun to hear someone say that. That first question sounds really hard. And then what was the second one?
The statement after what could I have done differently is, this is what I'll do to keep blank from happening again. But then, do you need anything else from me?
I like that one. I think that one for me is like, okay, now give me a goal or give me something to do for you. It also kind of puts you back in the service quadrant, which is easier to be in for a lot of people. Because then it's almost like, yeah, how can I make up for it? But it's not necessarily make up for it. It's
repair.
Yeah. And that, I like that. It gives a goal and, it gives me something to do for the person, and I'm very comfortable in service. But, tough to sit through the listening of how this is how you hurt me.
I totally don't think I've mentioned this at training, day one. We had literally spent hours doing those group agreements, the safer spaces, practices, everything that I've raved about. What I haven't talked about is that then our instructor, Carmen, was modeling an exercise we were going to do where we were going to say a will you or a may I question. And it was going to be juicy and fun. And then the other person was going to have to say, no, it's good to want. The purpose was not that we didn't want to give the person that. The purpose was practicing our no. We had an entire piece of the group of agreements about not courting arousal, not saying anything or doing anything within the 5 days that was trying to arouse someone, was trying to be sexual or sensual in nature. Obviously, sometimes when you're touching and exploring someone's hand, it's beautiful, it's pleasurable, and so you feel natural, physical, biological arousal. But the task we were given was to notice it and let it pass through our bodies. And someone said, great, that actually is very encouraging to me. That has not been said in other trainings I've done. Somebody once said in this exact exercise, I want to see you naked. And that made their body very alarmed. So we had literally gone through, great, yeah, no, we're not going to say things like that. Because even if they had meant it platonically, it's sensual, sexual in nature. So Carmen knows Jax, one of our other assistants in the program. Jax runs a cuddle company, shout out, in DC. And Carmen knows also that Jax has a extensive kink history background. They have played in kink spaces together. They have all of this experience together. So she says, Jax, can I come over to your place? This is the thing that Jax is going to say no to, right? And again, this is all not supposed to happen. It's a imaginatory exercise. I want to come over to your house after this and come into one of your cuddle rooms, and I want you to give me a therapeutic spanking. And you could feel the whole room be like, what? What? Like fear in my belly. Because all of a sudden we're talking about something much more sensual in nature. I thought we weren't doing this. You could literally feel.
Yeah, like a breath, a collective breath.
A collective breath. And so we were in this experience, and one of our brave colleagues goes like this. And Carmen's like, yeah. And she said, may I ask a question? I thought that we weren't courting arousal. I'm very confused. You just said therapeutic spanking. Now I feel like that's given the whole room permission to say things like that. And I thought we had just established that we weren't doing that. Could you expound? Carmen at first, and I hope she watches this because she knows this whole story, kind of stood her ground and was like, no, this was a pre-existing relationship. This feels safe in my body. Then somebody else raised their hand and was like, but we don't know everybody. And Carmen sat there and held the space and let 3-4 people disagree with her publicly in a public forum. She is leading this workshop. She is way up high in the wheel of consent. Sat there with all of us expressing disappointment, dissatisfaction, frustration, hurt, fear. Held it. Then said to us all, I want to take accountability. I should not have said that. And I can see what I have caused. And I am sorry. In front of all of us. And said, it was not in my intent, but I do not want to negate its impact. And this has obviously had an impact on this space. And I apologize. You are all correct. And after that, we had maybe a 20-30 minute discussion about dismantling hierarchies of power, about healing and repair, and the fact that she took accountability for doing something wrong made us all feel more safe, because then that made the whole next 5 days feel safer, because we knew we could collectively come to her or individually come to her and say things like, hey, I misunderstood that made me feel. And we knew that we could trust that she was a person who would hold our other position and take accountability for her actions. So not that I want to praise you, because I feel like Carmen did a thing in this instance. You've done a thing. But to be the type of person that someone can come to should be our greatest joy. What a gift that we're soft enough to hear, wow, that hurt. And then we can say, wow, thank you for telling me. To be a safe space like that, we're not going to be perfect. We are not going to be. You told me when we shared a couple weeks ago on the podcast that we have clients that are sometimes like, I'm ready to be done. And that makes me sad, because I'm always like, not always. Sometimes it's like, yeah, we are right. But sometimes it feels sooner in my body than I would have wished. And you said to me, but you're safe for them to say that. Like, don't you see? And it was so true, because it's something we cultivate from the very beginning. You always control the amount of sessions. It is not about how many sessions Lauren thinks you should have. It's how many sessions you think you should have, regardless of whether or not this is a mutual agreement. Your voice, oh client, matters so much more than Lauren's. So much more. So what's the alternative? Ghosting. Sure, they could do that. But I would so much rather the beautiful emails that we get that are like, this has been amazing. I feel complete. I'm ready to be done. I can either be the safe person to hear that or not. So again, I don't mean to like applaud you. And yet at the same time, I want to say, I think you're safe enough for someone to say that too. And we can't discount that. And I want us to be those people. We're going to fuck up with clients. We're going to fuck up emails. We're going to fuck up distributing this podcast in some way, shape, or yes. All we can say is thank you.
Yeah.
And it's not something that was exemplified for us, that's for sure. But I can tell you that that moment in training was transformational. And I wept and said thank you because I had been in a space, months ago, where I was harmed and no one at the leadership level took accountability. In fact, they told me things like, I've done this for 30 years and this has never happened. Right?
Right.
So you could take that stance. You could. Well, I communicate for a living, so right. I mean, you could, and it would be nasty, and I'd be saying different things to you. Let's not be those people.
Yeah.
Let's be the curious ones and the receptive ones, and not let it go to, oh, I am this. No, let's let it go to, wow, what is mine to learn from this? Do you have, desire to do more together? Do you want to repair this in any way, shape, or form? And negotiate that third domain and learn and grow. But it doesn't make it easy. How are you feeling? All the thoughts, all the things.
I feel equipped, better equipped than I came into the room to have conversations with a person that I've harmed. And I feel humbled, but in a good way. And almost kind of like, this is going to sound weird, I think, but like excited that I still have work to do.
Yeah.
I thrive under prerogative, under like having not necessarily a goal to work towards, but something to focus on. And yeah, I think this has revealed some holes in my building fortress of tools, some holes in my toolbox. So yeah, I'm feeling a lot of things. How are you feeling with your repair?
Yeah, I kind of same this when I had my Reiki last Monday, and I think I might have said some of this. No, because I think we talked about Wheel of Consent. When my incredible Reiki practitioner pulled some cards for me, and one of them was all about the extremes of life. And that as human beings, we can have this tendency when something goes well, that's like, look at what I did. Look how great I am. And yet when it goes bad, it's like, what's happening to me? And to feel like we're failures or whatever. And this whole card was, no, both things teach us, and also get your ego out of the way. That this journey that we're on in these bodies get to teach us. And that there is something to learn through the highs, through the lows. And sometimes they come out of the blue and surprise us. And we can, if we desire to, accept them as learning opportunities. And the only caution is to not go to, oh, that's just how I am, or, oh, I am such a horrible person. Those narratives don't help us. But wow, thank you for sharing with me. I'm truly sorry. Is really beautiful. And with my projection and conversation and stuff that's going to come about, I keep asking myself, like, what's mine to do? And what can I take accountability for? And what can I be open to? What am I interested in being open to? Because I think that's really important. And at training, they kept saying we can't advocate for our limits unless we know our wants, unless we really, truly know what we want inside of our domain. And I think we're all always discovering more of that. I don't know if we'll ever stop. So, yeah. We need to look up like the stars and the transits and the moons because
also, there's so many cars in the shop right now.
All our cars are in the shop.
All of them.
Mine got hit on the mechanics lot. Holland was she was kind of anticipating this, but
still for it to be like in the shop this week.
Yeah, the cookies is in the shop.
The cookies.
Trey's is always kind of funky, so it's kind of unreliable anyway. But like Trey's is the only car we all have right now.
Between the four of us.
That's a lot. There's no cars. It's just funny. Holland took an Uber today.
I took an Uber.
In our
my
fair
first
town.
Uber. I've never had taken an Uber in this town because I think there's 3 total drivers.
There's not a lot of options, and yeah,
Something's going on,
and it's okay. Yeah, Trey was telling me I have a little bit of a head cold, and he was saying I just really want to work on our immune systems because like I don't want us to get sick. And I said like I don't either, and I think sometimes we get worn down so that we can learn the lessons that we need to learn and so that we can be still and we can be quiet. And I rested all day yesterday, and sometimes that's uncomfy.
she says with gritted teeth.
Yeah. And sometimes we need to learn something.
Mm-hmm.
And y'all, that's why this podcast is When Research Meets Reality. I don't want to be this, like, get me off the pedestal, please.
We don't belong there.
No.
We really don't.
And so get me off the pedestal, and I want to be known as a person that people can bring things to. And that I will take accountability for what is mine to do and repair and grow and become a better friend, a better employer, a better business owner, a better practitioner of my skills. That's all. And that, that they can trust that I will do the work too, right? Because there's your work, there's my work, there's our work. That's not this beautiful human's work to do, right? Like that's exciting too. Like you said, I think that is okay, that you're kind of a little turned on by that. Like, ooh, I have some work to do. That's okay. Yeah. I think this is a good podcast. I do.
Yep. I'm already pondering the fact that it's going on the internet.
But better, I don't know. I feel like it's also such an interesting world that we live in, that we can say that people who have podcasts and who are on social media and all these kind of things, like we forget they're the real people, fallible real people. And let this be the reminder. We are real people. And yeah, I don't want people to not address things with us just because we have social media platforms or podcasts. That feels silly.
Yes, it
So yeah,
does.
shout out to this human who,
truly.
I mean, it's very phenomenal the way that they communicated, which has only been the way they've communicated since the beginning.
Always.
So that's also beautiful.
He's been incredible.
Yeah. This wraps up today's such an exciting episode of Sex Ed for You, where research meets reality, with Lauren and Holland. As a reminder, we are very human. These are our opinions and lived experiences, and we encourage you to make your own decisions. You have a right to self-determination and informed decision-making. Please take what you like from this episode and leave the rest. Always unsubscribe, always share, or don't share. It is your job to function within your domain, and we empower you to do so. If you want to set up a free consult with me, you can go to certifiedholisticsexualityU.com/free consult. Fill in that little form. Holland will decide if we would be a good fit and confirm your session for your 15-minute consult. And you and I can chat about what's going on in your life and how I work with clients and all that good stuff. And if we are a good fit, we can move forward. If not, I'll refer you out.
We're also going to have the accident versus violation worksheet available for download.
Boom.
For free. If you use the code fuck up.
Whoa, you gotta type a curse word.
You gotta type a curse word. I'm so sorry. It's gonna all be one word and it'll be down below in the description.
So if you don't want to say fuck up, you could be like FU cup.
Yeah, FU cup.
Mm-hmm. Sexedforyou.com is on Instagram, but you have to go to sex_ed_for_you because Meta is silly and it won't give us sex ed for you. I guess you could message Meta too if you want to, because literally nobody does. It's just an account that's just nothing.
Yep.
Nothingness. Give it to us. I think that's all.
That's it.
We're nerds. You're welcome. Subscribe to our email list if you want. You can also do that, sexedforyou.com/email, and make sure you're getting Holland's newsletters. There'll be an email going out soon asking folks more specifics of what types of stuff they're interested in getting. But yeah, have a wonderful rest of your day, and we will talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.